halfway up, kind of like built it like someone was an animal husband. Fence with some wire.
So Fair isn't up there anymore.
The Fair's got like her land back there. I didn't even go down that way.
Right.
The one with Jay's cabin, the two cabins were one the wall burned down and the other one I think. Yeah. So it was kind of weird.
So Jay's cabin isn't there anymore.
Nothing gone. Cammy found some.
Hey, Andrea.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, Andrea. How are you?
So glad you're out here.
Big elbow hugs.
Yes.
I'll be in trouble if I don't. Just do elbow hugs.
Yes. Yay.
Strict orders.
Christy gave you the strict.
Yay.
Strict orders. Yeah.
Well, that'll make my job easier if you're already under strict.
I'm already under strict orders. I know what to do.
Andy, are you setting up for a night?
Yeah, I thought I might. That's why I was piling things up too. But I can't resist the camera and the paparazzi are here now.
Yes.
I'm ready to go.
It's amazing.
Oh, it's so nice to be here.
I'm so glad.
Fun.
I loved it when Andy came back. So we've had you all staying in all different buildings at different points. But I don't know, initially the reservations got made in the cottage a mile down the hill. And then, well, maybe everybody should be in Uphill, or maybe everybody should be out. And then when Andy came back and you had said, I just want to be on the lawn. I said, oh, and is your room going to be warm enough?
Well, I'm still awaiting the verdict.
Oh, right.
Oh,
If he doesn't pass, does he have to sleep out there on the lawn?
no, he'll be on our porch, I told him.
Yeah, I've got a sleeping bag.
This porch is also the breeziest place in the house.
Well,
You're on West Porch, but we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah.
And your testers all, sometimes if you call,
I don't really.
they
You
give
can
it to you
call.
sooner
You have
than...
CVS?
Yeah.
Oh, that I don't know.
I just did CVS. I just did it.
Oh, here it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Minute Clinic. Your test is ready. Your test result is ready.
Yes.
And?
To view it,
Click here.
it's here.
Put your name,
It
your
arrived
birthday.
31 minutes ago.
Oh, good.
Put your birthday in.
Okay.
the suspense
Your
is
test
killing me.
is today. Oh, that's old notes.
It's like,
These are all old notes.
it's always a cheap.
Your test result is ready. View it here.
You seem to be on a
One moment,
hamster
please.
wheel there, Paul.
Let's verify your identity. Okay.
There's your
Paul,
birthday.
by the way, your test result is ready.
Okay, come on. I might have to go find you. There's 4 bars here, so how come I can't do this? Okay, wait.
Email address and your phone.
December.
Come on, Herb's ready to document this moment.
The moment where Paul is like, if he passed. It's the, you pass or fail. What is it? Pass or fail? Pass your test when it's negative.
Yes, it's going to be
if he passes his test, then we're torn between doing our own thing outside or going to
I'm going to go to the bathroom.
I'll return.
I'll be back to Where's the facility? Walnuts is back. You want me to see if I come back or anything, Paul?
I'm fine. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to start all over again. There.
What's the verdict?
Negative.
Do that again. All right, good job.
Kind of got out. I had it. It was. It's kind of funny. I get the chemo. They load me up with steroids. So the day after the chemo, steroids, man. I'm like, oh, let's go.
Right.
It's kind of sure.
Right.
And then there was Friday chemo. Saturday, it's a great day. Friday, did a whole bunch of. Saturday, it was good. Sunday, I got out of bed at 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, and I was there, and it was my whole body, everything was burning, all my joints and my bones and everything like that. So that kind of like laid me up for, like 3 or 4 days. Then this last chemo wasn't burning, but it was like everything was bound up. Like I felt like leg, like almost
Charlie Horse.
No, it's kind of like I was thinking. You read about like Chinese foot binding, it's like everything instead of burning, everything was bound. I couldn't do it.
Right.
And then I had screaming pain, so I couldn't because it's in my bones. I'm so kind of tickled pink that I could drive up and have, as long as I can have, make some kind of sense and have conversations and not be. I have to be mindful not to do anything that makes me a greater burden.
Right.
The doctor said, don't go skydiving. Like things I don't want to get. You don't want to get a broken bone.
Right.
You don't want to have kidney failure. You want to take care of these things because we'll just sit down with this. So I don't know. It's all new.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how I'm going and make the best out of it.
Right.
Blessing. So on the one hand, I have I end up in this crazy minority leader job that was, however
There's
that ended up.
Purpose.
How that ended up
There's
being.
purpose to it.
So I get up and I do that, and then I also have like a need to do like my family. I have like my Clamshell family and my anti-death penalty family. I'm very I love the people I work with. I get along. It's good. But I don't have. It's not like a brother. It's not like
camaraderie.
It's not like it's nice that you do stuff. But it's not like that deep. Like you're there. Because it has been. I think about my chosen or intervention, but like the family that I have, and it really has been Clamshell constantly, and then my anti-death. Those two kind of big. A couple of decades doing each one of those things on and off, and they still maintain. And of course, they're related.
Absolutely.
That's all. So
it's a central theme of justice.
Anyway, I'm really pickled because I didn't know it's hard to make plans. It's just but I'm doing the best I can.
Well, know that you are loved and there's loads of help that is people would in a heartbeat.
And I have probably where about Christy and the girl?
Exactly. Exactly.
It's been really kind of a gift. You always take everything for the gift it can be.
Yeah.
So I'm always figuring out the gift of my
yes, and that was
the gift of my cancer.
That's what Linda was telling me. She wanted me to convey that this would be for your entire family, and that's I think what you want to pose. That's the question you want to pose.
And then it's then I talk about I'm not. Part of my appreciation is I am not wanting for attention or for help. It's just this was I get I'm busting out, going out on my own. I get to drive here. It's kind of it feels like I'm doing something normal. I don't have to have not the chef, kind of everybody's watching me doing stuff.
Yeah.
And they're very loving and appreciative.
Yeah. It comes through, or just how quick change can come now.
Yeah, we're such a freaking crazy world.
And it's all interconnected to how twisted it's become. But you know what you've got is this incredible integrity that has been, it's part of your life that,
Try to do it.
yeah. Oh no, you've done more than try. You've demonstrated. So,
Some of the stuff I get a little uncomfortable. Like, part of it's like, I'm on my way out, but I'm not dead yet. So
Yes.
it's like I'm not having no.
yes.
We just chit chat, and I'm like, I did that interview with the New Hampshire Bulletin, and it was one of that women. She was very nice. Came down, it's just can I talk to you? And it was mostly, I want to do a profile about the democratically, political stuff. And spent an hour and a half. Do you mind talking about your illness? I said, no. I mean, I'm pretty up. I'm pretty upfront about my illness. I wouldn't have run for the. I told everybody I just, I stage 4 cancer. This is what it is. I think I'll be around, but I should know that. I answer questions. I want to be transparent and responsible to it. And then, so I'm just talking to her about it. And the next thing, it's like she does the story. It's like, well, I'm not dead yet. Like,
Yes.
didn't bury the lead. Don't do it. And all of a sudden, people like phone calls. Like, no, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good today.
Yeah.
Not a good day, a bad day. And what do we want? What are we doing? What do you want to be? What are we doing?
Yep. We get these new leases on life. Orleans was like a new lease on life.
I think about the New Orleans. I thought about that stuff, and I got, it's funny. I do stuff like, my girl set me up a caring bridge thing, which I should do. I haven't done it. They set up. I just didn't bother, post that stuff. But I like, and of course I get in. What is it? It's Jeff's posting. Because Jeff had done it. In Karen Brando, Charlie King's Park, or little friends that took up. But most I want to know, how we're going to shut down Seabrook. How we're going to prevent the revival. How do we persuade people who recognize that the climate is in crisis, that the solution is not part of the solution is not generating more nuclear waste, thinking that that's...
And it's certainly, it's certainly not zero carbon, zero emissions. That's they managed to incorporate the big lie in everything they've ever done. So,
do you need some tea or coffee, Herb?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, we had a chat with
Tea or coffee?
I think they're out of water.
The hot water was out, but I should have filled it. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go check.
Yeah, but you don't need to run off.
Yeah, you don't have to go.
No,
You don't need to
I'm
run
going
off.
to get myself some coffee.
Don't.
So
Do we need to go in for to have fun?
we don't have to.
Yes, right.
I'm with you guys to the bitter end, whichever way we go.
Your call.
I'm happy just
Usually about 8:30 or 9. At my point.
I can usually make it till 8:30.
I can stay up late now. I can go.
I was thinking we might make a fire later.
Cool.
But yeah, let me go see about the warm beverages. I'll be right back. So
Just
should
signal and we'll come up. I'll come up.
Okay.
I'll come up. Yeah, we cornered Cardin's staff because he was the author of this zero emissions carbon tax credit act of 2021. $50 billion for nukes that otherwise will close. And the first question I asked him was, where do you get this zero from? And he said, I concede, it's not zero. So, that's just short of saying we lied.
I get it.
But it's not new.
If we're going to spend money, I'm going to shut them down.
Yeah.
It's like just to stop producing the hazards, not stop producing the waste. Still waiting for the figure that. My head explodes if they keep giving Seabrook. I thought it was really interesting, after the collapse of the condos that
Yeah.
from the ocean front. I'm going, isn't that the ASR? Isn't that part of like Seabrook?
Right. Have they tagged it with the ASR yet?
I don't know what they do.
Yeah.
I don't know anything, but I just make.
I think they, the
Whatever
thing
it
is,
was.
are they going to bury the evidence?
Yeah.
Because that's the concern. Is because that's not the only building in
Right. All the stuff.
Miami that's got that concrete aggregate in it.
Yeah. Deep sand. Deep sand.
It may be, but it's
Yeah.
it's a question of if they are going to do the analysis.
I mean, I'm hoping there's 100 families that are going to be pretty pissed off. Somebody's going to be really. I think there's got to be some critical mass of people who know the truth about it. That's true. It's not happening on January
6.
Still, a lot of people testifying, people will be subpoenaed. Hopefully,
Yeah.
ex-president himself will plead the fifth.
Yeah, he can plead the fifth if you want. I want to test it. I want them to do that. But that's terrifying, man. That whole terrorist ship. It's still going on. They're just emboldened. Now people are drawing inspiration from the insurrection.
Yeah.
So I put water on for the big cistern, but the little pot that you tried before her, I heated up. So there is too long.
Do you follow Heather?
I do actually. I read her on and off. I do. Yeah, I find her pretty easy to digest.
She had a good one today.
I don't read her every day.
And it's called
Letters from an American.
Letters from an American.
She's pretty.
Gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Octavia Driscoll.
Oh, Octavia.
Pleased to meet you.
Nice to meet you all.
Renny.
Oh, good.
Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Dear.
Thank you for accepting that mantle of leadership down to.
I have big shoes to fill. Big shoes.
Oh, but we hear you are the shoe filler.
I appreciate that. It's a nickname I've
I
got.
tell you, it's like shoe filler.
Yeah, right. It's on my name tag.
Nickname shoe filler, along with the pronouns. It's like
Yeah, there we go. I like that. I'll take that. Well, I'm excited that you guys are here. I'm glad that you're able to make it, and gonna have a wonderful weekend, I hope.
It is. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Always.
Tomorrow's supposed to be gorgeous too.
It's always wonderful. It's like magical once you start coming up this road. You start climbing up. Get back
I
here.
didn't get to tell you that Renny, when I said I wasn't sure exactly how many plants would show up and stuff, he said, I just wanted to sit on the lawn and look at the mountain and listen to the screen door slam. So his
You're
dream
gonna get
has
plenty of
already
that.
Oh yeah, I mean it's no, but it is. It's kind of like a wonderful. It is like, yeah, it's a screen door that slams so it keeps the mosquitoes out of it. It's a sound of people coming and going. It's like it's the sound of people being alive.
And so many, you're here for a great weekend with a lot of families and kids around too. There's going to be a lot of energy here.
There's always good juju.
energy long into the night.
Right. And good, and good spirits.
Yes, for sure.
The spirits that come from it.
You know, I used to pick apples, and I actually drove by the old orchard in Kentucky.
Cook it?
Yeah, Gould Hill,
Gould Hill.
today, just to see what shape. They're not selling apples now, but that was the hard
They're selling
thing.
house lots instead.
It's house lots.
Backstory. So Paul's a New Hampshire transplant. Paul was here for years and years and years and years, and then he moved to DC to continue the fight against nuclear power from a nonprofit in DC. So he lives in the People's Republic of Tacoma.
Right.
I saw that on the sheet. So I lived in DC for a couple of years, and one of my good friends, actually from before I lived in DC, but she did live in Tacoma Park. Now she lives like Van Nuys or something. She's got, but I am familiar with the area.
Yes.
It is a very
It's really cool.
fun.
It's very out there.
yes.
But what I was going to say is the orchard bunkhouse was a little like the slamming door, right? But at Gould Hill, we had this bunkhouse, so the whole crew would sleep in the same building, and every night you could hear just in the middle of the night. That's the haunted picture. But it sounded just like somebody lowering a bucket of apples into a wooden bin.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
And we'd let them go on for a while. And what it was, though, was there was a wooden bridge, and the car going over the wooden bridge would rattle the planks. But it was perfect, and we had some of them going for a while on that.
I have to check in over here, but it was nice to meet you guys.
Thank you, Chief.
I'm sure. I hope I have many more conversations over the next
Yeah,
couple of days.
you will.
Days and years.
So we, yes, very glad.
Where is she from?
So she, let's see, so she was born in Michigan, interestingly.
Ooh,
Yeah, interestingly
affinity for
enough,
me.
yes. But grew up outside of Cleveland, and then has spent chunks of time in DC, San Francisco, and most recently New York. She was at the New School as the director of theatrical production for six or 7 years. That's her most recent gig. And she was connected to friends of ours who worked on the 400 Years of Inequality campaign around the 400th anniversary of 1619. Yeah. So that's how she was connected. She, at one point after a meeting, they were shooting the shit or something, and she said that she was hoping to, run a nonprofit, and our mutual friends said, "Have we got the nonprofit for you?" And
So she's been here since May.
yes, yeah. So after a long and arduous process in which there were like 3 interviews, because the selection committee ended up having, there were 30 applications that passed the Giggle test. And then there ended up being kind of 6 finalists whittled down to 4 finalists, and then so it was the selection committee had an arduous job to choose, because there were some really good people about it.
So therein begins the struggle.
Yeah.
It's a good choice.
It's kind of a good challenge to have
Yeah, the best kind. So when she first got here, I think she was understandably a little anxious and overwhelmed. That was a rational response to being here. And we've just watched her over the past weeks just take things on and settle in, and she feels really comfortable and kind of in command now.
Just under the normal circumstances. Pandemic.
Yeah.
I was just saying, I was just thinking to myself about the place looks great considering the pickled for a year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 21 months since we shut the place down before we opened it up again, and so you can imagine some of the more obvious things that popped up were just plumbing problems from extra rust sitting in the pipes and just having to flush out all the fill valves and continually empty the aerators on the faucet and flush them out so that before the plumbing starts and so on. And one of the reach-ins, Alice plugged it in, walked over to the sink in the corner, and then heard a crackling noise and turned around to see the motor on fire. So, and who knows what that came from, possibly from rodents nesting in it over, 21 months. And one of the cars that we hadn't used, I took for a spin and started getting attacked by wasps. And then once I parked it, let them settle down, and then opened it up, all four of the door hinge areas were occupied with separate wasp colonies. And the wasps really have just taken over. We've had to evict wasps from every possible place. Because ordinarily, they get kicked back, but they've been able to really expand their empire. Yeah. And you can start to imagine how it will be, when we're no longer on the scene.
There's a theme there,
Yeah,
the wasps are taking over.
Yeah, Jonathan Shell, in The Fate of the Earth, there was a chapter entitled The Republic of Insects and Grass. Yeah. And among the insects will be those wasps.
I just thought I don't like them.
Yeah. Right.
So he's the moderator, and everybody knows who he is, and he says, by the way, I support this amendment. This warrant article, to have open and fair redistricting. And boy, that took care of all the Republicans in the tent. And we're mainly a Republican town. And there was voice vote, and there was not one no. Everything was a yes. And I just thought, you know what? He just really helped it along right there, because he said, by the way, I support this.
Well, it's kind of hard for him to say, by the way,
I don't.
support secret.
Yeah. But still, we have some really obnoxious Republicans in our town. Mm-hmm. I thought that just took care of them right there.
Yeah. That's very good. So Pet 2, how's
first name's okay, right? I remember that.
Pet 2, how's first? That's not Berwick these days,
Oh, you're North Berwick?
Yeah.
My sister's in
South. I think it's like a replace house.
Her sister-in-law lives in South Berwick. Oh. So we know, what is it called, Foxtrot Road?
They're on, no, Witch Trot.
Witch Trot.
I pass through South Berwick quite often.
On your way to somewhere? Did you get your tiny house built?
Yeah, it's all done. The big projects are done. The casket's done, and the tiny house is done. What else is there left?
There you go, Bob.
I got to build one for myself, I think. That's all.
Did you build his?
Well, no, I didn't. I did it.
Engineered and supervised.
Yeah, with his daughters.
Do you remember Jay Whitecrow?
Yes.
And at his time of going, there were 2 caskets.
Yeah.
people had built two,
Yes.
and one fit inside the other.
They were built independently,
Yeah.
but they fit like a glove.
Yeah, just one inside the
With
other.
the Russian set in.
Yeah, like those dolls.
Yeah,
The eggs.
You can never have too many.
Well,
Yeah.
well, I thought he was on the way up too because I heard news of Arthur Harvey the other day. Someone.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Yeah. No, he's fine.
Oh, good. That's
He is?
good.
He's still selling blueberries and.
Gandhi books?
Well, you know, I called him. I talked to him 2 years ago. I called him about bees because I got back in contact. When I knew him, he was a celibate, living in this 6 by 8 foot little thing at somebody's
Just a
house
little
in
bigger
Raymond.
than an apple bin.
In Raymond, he was babysitting a house and he was on his 10-year program.
Yeah.
And then I hadn't ever seen or heard from him. And I get a call from him, probably in the 1980s, that he was investigating or doing something with organic bees.
Cool.
And he called me up because I had bees. And my name was on a list, I guess.
Arthritis treatment? Or?
No, just honeybees. And so we talked for quite a while, and he told me about this book he was editing, a huge Gandhi book that was supposed to be the Gandhi book of all Gandhi books. And then I've never actually seen him. I talked to him on the phone, and I think last year I talked to him. Because when bees had died, but he no longer doing bees.
I've thought about him a bunch. I was wondering, he's still on Blue Job, or is that what the name of it is?
Someplace.
Blue Job Mountain, Maine?
Oh yeah, no, he had lost the house to the IRS, and then his mother-in-law bought it.
Yeah, and they moved back in.
As far as I know, he's still doing blueberries. Because I know he's selling them to a friend of mine on Route 1. That's
And
been
he
my
and
contact
Elizabeth
lately.
are still together?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I assume so.
You know, it's funny about our way of life and everything. You said he's still on Blue Job. I immediately thought of must be an app. You know, he's on Blue Job, like he's on,
I thought it was
he's
an
at Gmail, or he's on
I
Chatbox,
thought
or he's on Blue Job. I've heard of that one.
I thought it was a treatment.
You thought it was a treatment. I thought it was an app. You know?
I just thought, what's the name of the mountain? What towns you live in?
Yeah.
You know, when I was at UNH, Arthur Harvey used to be on campus passing out the green leaf.
Yeah.
And he was my first activist that I ever knew. Because I'd come from New York State, nothing like anything like happens in New Hampshire, the part I lived in. But there was Arthur Harvey, once every week or every other week or a month or something, passing out the green leaf.
I think I first met him.
Yeah, he made his own newspaper.
I don't, it could be, it would have to be alumni.
What? Yeah, I mean.
But you know, what that reminds me, you know, the U.S. Department of Labor came after him for a, you know, the guild was actually they brought charges against him that says you're not registered. And so we want
As a labor organization?
as a labor organization. So we want the list of everybody that's ever worked for you. And so he brought his records to the U.S. To the court in Concord and burned them in the plaza there.
Right in front of them.
Yeah.
Here are the records, and then he set them on fire.
What did they do?
He's still around. I forgot what exactly they didn't respond to it. I think it was Bowden. What was the judge? Bounds was the judge. Yeah.
Well, I met him here, probably in the 50s, I don't know. And I know we always hate to see him coming because he was such a shit disturber.
Such a what?
Shit disturber.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in any discussion, Arthur would always intentionally try to fuck things up. I mean, it always seemed like that to me.
Yeah,
and,
it's true.
But when I met him one-on-one and when I was living with the Booths for a little while, he'd stop in and then, you know, I stayed with him one time. And one-on-one, I kind of appreciated the guy. But boy, I hate to see him coming in a group.
You know, he was...
Maybe he'll come today.
He was a ferocious apple picker, too. And, but it was always annoying, you know, because the crew would rotate. Somebody would leave the orchard early to go in to cook dinner. And so when it was Arthur's turn, we would have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
That's cool. That's neat.
you say you were living quite a bit at things. He and I got in the shtick, I guess they call it a shtick, of me coming up to him and saying, hey, tomorrow you're going to watch the game at the Canterbury Sports Bar? He said, yeah, I'll be down there. But so he got into this joke thing, and people would listen and go, so surprised that, and we'd start to talk about, let's go down and have a couple of beers and watch the game at the Canterbury Sports Bar. And so we started every time, and people around us were just like, were shocked to hear Don talking about that, but it didn't really exist. I mean, we were only kidding. But we sort of stuck that up and through the years.
I want to tell you about Lois's service, her memorial service.
Mm-hmm.
Were you there then?
No, I wasn't.
It had like hundreds of people at it. The UU Church in Concord was packed. The two things that I remember, because people gave so many testimonies, is that one woman, she said, I moved to town when I was divorced and I had 4 little kids and I just needed a side income of some kind. So Lois hired me to come like 2 days a week to their house, and they had the 6 kids. So she said, some days I would just bake bread all day. That was my job. Some days I would just do laundry all day. But one time, Lois had me sit in the car with a typewriter in the back seat, and she dictated to me a leaflet, right? And then we were going to an action, but I had to drop Lois off at the action and then drive the leaflet to the Kinko's, to the copy center, and make 500 copies and bring it back to the protest. And she said, that was one of my days.
Wow.
And then,
as normally as it ever did.
Whatever that is. Yes.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, July 31st, 2021. We have some nice weather for you today. We're planning a nice early September day. Mostly sunny with a high near 74, west wind around 10 miles per hour with gusts as high as 20. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 49. We have a program this morning at 10 a.m. Jen Fagel, right over there with her dog Penny, is with the Commonwealth Kitchen in Dorchester, Mass. And her subject is, how can we build a truly just, equitable, and sustainable food economy? Howie is doing his recreation program thing. There's children's fellowship. Life continues all around us. Let's see. Birthdays we're celebrating today. Civil rights leader Whitney Young, who was one of the big 5 or the big 5. Yeah, exactly. He would have been 100 today, people.
oh my gosh.
And poet Kim Adonisio was born on this day in 1954. Kim Adonisio, who said, poetry is not a means to an end, but a continuing engagement with being alive. On this day in 1492, Jews were expelled from Spain as part of the Alhambra Decree, the edict of
Wait, did you say
expulsion.
1492?
1492. A lot happened in that year in the field of global expansion and consolidation. On this day in 1970, the tot, the daily rum ration, was officially discontinued in the British Royal Navy. This was not a popular decision. There were mock funerals and burials at sea for the tot, but the Admiralty didn't relent. A year before, the Admiralty Board had determined the rum issue is no longer compatible with the high standards of efficiency required now that the individual's tasks in ships are concerned with complex and often delicate machinery and systems on the correct functioning of which people's lives may depend. On this day in 1981, Panamanian leader Omar Torrijos went down in a mysterious plane crash. Speculation is that U.S. interests that didn't approve of his recovery of sovereignty over the canal might have been behind it. And in December of 1989, when the U.S. invaded Panama, records related to the investigation of the crash mysteriously went missing. So for a quote of the day, it was a year ago yesterday, John Lewis's funeral in Atlanta. And I don't know about you, but my favorite speech was the one by Reverend James Lawson, who of course was Lewis's mentor during the Nashville sit-in movement in 1960. And so as he rose toward the climax of his eulogy, he said, let all of us in this service today and all the people of the United States of America determine that we will not be quiet as long as any child dies in the first year of life in the United States. We will not be quiet as long as the largest poverty group in our nation are women and children. We will not be quiet as long as our nation continues to be the most violent culture in the history of humankind. We will not be quiet as long as our economy is shaped not by freedom, but by plantation capitalism that continues to cause domination and control rather than access and liberty and equality for all. If we would honor and celebrate John Lewis's life, then let us recommit our souls, our hearts, our minds, our bodies, our strength to the continuing journey to dismantle the wrong in our midst, to allow a space for the new earth and the new heaven to emerge.
Thank you.
James Lawson.
Thank you
John
so
Lewis
much.
used to have his, either spoke here or was supposed to speak here in December 64 in June of 64.
Here? Did he speak here?
I can't remember.
Ah.
But he's on the agenda. When we were looking up the stuff,
Yeah.
and I got the agendas and the cards that staff sent in to people in the staff. It was on that agenda. John Lewis it was early. It was like in June, I think he was supposed to come. Whether he came, I don't know.
Well, just say he came and add to the law.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll add it to the list of eminent
Little
speakers.
sign.
I want to tell
John
you.
Lewis was going to speak here.
Well, no, he may have.
Visit. Yeah, no, that's true. No, I get it.
But the fact is, it's on the agenda.
Yeah, that
That
counts.
is the fact.
I have a John Lewis story. My daughter Marcy works for SEIU Labor Union. That's kind of an outgrowth of our activism together. So she was in Washington. She had Washington D.C. L Street office, and they always had the space for, especially John Lewis, Jesse Jackson, to come and have meetings there anytime they want. So she knew him. And one time I was in Washington visiting her, and we were on a street corner to cross, crossing White, and Marcy said, "Oh, there's John Lewis." So she introduced me to him. So I said, "We are the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee." I sang as much of it as I could remember. He was so happy to hear that. But it was neat. And then he crossed his way and we crossed our way. But I thought, I waved my daughter, I got to meet John Lewis.
Nice. Good story. Moses was there.
I know.
The other night I screened, there's a 2-hour interview with him.
Bob Moses?
Yeah, with Bob Moses with the Julian Bond History Project. And it's pretty good, and the beginning is just especially affecting when he talks about his background and he talks about how he ended up going to Mississippi. And he's just sitting in a chair, talking very informally, and there were about 12 of us in the conference room, and it just felt like Bob Moses was hanging out talking to us.
I ran into him at Lewiston 15 years ago. He had no memory of me. Of course, I had great memories of him because we'd worked together.
The little stairs up to the loft, each
Yeah.
one is a drawer.
Yes, no,
things
that's
like
the way
that.
ours will be when it's done. I haven't finished it. It's not finished.
Yeah.
They're living in there, and all the finished work will take place in the fall.
Yeah, it's amazing how many things you can just make work. by
It's also
thinking.
amazing of how they're making them now for really wealthy people.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I just saw one go up to, it's 30 feet, 30 by 10 or 30 by 8, and It's a palace. I mean, there isn't. They got a washing machine. I mean,
Solar.
dishwasher in there.
It really in the
got a solar
tiny house.
part
It's
of
got
it.
solar on the roof, but there's no way. But they're not. No way they can hook up to the grid. So they're going to have the generator because there's no way in the winter in Maine you're going to get enough solar to run something like that.
Have you seen where they make shipping containers into houses now?
You know, in Kentucky, New Hampshire,
Yeah.
is the crate for Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis.
Really?
And it's a tiny house.
Kentucky, New Hampshire.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
it labeled outside so you can know that or something?
I don't think that it's publicized because people have been living in it.
Wow.
Do you know the people who live there, Paul?
I did.
Did somebody convert it?
It was originally converted. I've forgotten her name, but she lived there. She was a fiddler with Dudley Laughlin.
Oh wow!
Huh.
Yeah, but she lived in Lindbergh's crate.
Wow. Can you imagine
Wait,
saying
like
that?
Lindbergh's
I
crate.
lived in Lindbergh's crate.
That's a great.
Somebody should write a poem or a story about Lindbergh's crate.
There you go, Lynn.
We have, Dudley had his 80th birthday in our barn. We have an event barn. And let's see, now it's,
That must have been a while ago.
oh, yeah, because now he's 90. Yeah, but he had his 80th birthday, and we had more people than were really allowed. But
170 people.
there were Morris
Wow.
dancers. He danced Morris dancing himself, you know, at 80.
You're kidding? That's
No.
what a hootland. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
and I mean, just sort of like the last couple of years, he's less agile, but he stayed, you know, like blue jean legged limber guy for a long, long time. Yeah.
I'm in touch with Jackie. Jackie Laughlin. Jacqueline, yeah, they've been split up for a while now and everything.
You know what happened? You know, because Dudley's always had kind of an eye for women. I don't know if you realize that.
The Wandering Willie syndrome.
Wandering Willie, but a young woman kind of replaced Jacqueline. And then it turned out, this is what Jacqueline said, she thought she could marry him and then inherit this nice little British type house. And then she found out that the kids are in line to inherit it. So that was like...
So what happened to his first wife?
His very first one?
They had 4 kids.
Well,
They
you know...
lived in one room. They lived in one room in Canada.
Remember the ditty about that? Yeah.
He wrote this: first wife, first child, second child, third, second wife, fourth child, third wife, third. He had
Were there 3 or 4 of the first one?
first wife, first child, second child, third. 3 kids. Second child, fourth wife, or fourth child, fifth child, fifth wife, no, third wife, third.
So they had this one-room house in Canada. Were you ever there?
No.
One room. And Dudley had kind of built a lot of them. He's not the world's greatest carpenter. And there was a little loft, and they all slept in the loft. And he had an outhouse, and he wanted to build another one. And he went to get a permit. I was going to build it for him. So I went with him, and they denied his permit. And then they had their appeals, and they still wouldn't let him put his outhouse in. He had to have a regular septic system around that aircraft. But the parties that he would have at that one-room house, the best fiddlers from New England would show up.
Yeah.
And they'd go literally for days.
Really?
24 hours a day, somebody would be playing or reciting poetry. People would be sleeping outside on the grass. It was an amazing time. Music.
Well, now he has a second room that's just a dancing room, a fiddling room. So like the first main room is still the kitchen and everything, and there's still stairs, like almost like a ladder up to the loft.
Yeah.
But he made a second. He calls it Wind in the Timothies, and he has dances and fiddling in the second room.
We went to dinner there before there was an event we went off to. Remember we went to his house with a bunch of us he had made dinner for us. But what was the thing we went to? Some other thing?
It was he has Canterbury Library
Oh
poetry
yes,
readings.
some event with a bunch of people.
One of the
went to his
people
house.
that would come was the Europe man, Bill Copperthwaite.
I know the name. Yeah.
He travels around the world building yurts and designing stuff. And when he died a few years ago, I contacted Dudley because I didn't know if he knew about it. He hadn't. And they had a memorial for him in Durham. But I don't think Dudley remembers him either.
Remembers you? I bet he does.
Well, maybe he doesn't want to. I don't know.
Because you didn't build him a second outhouse?
Oh, no, that was fine. That was fine.
Yeah.
No, he'd have plenty of reasons for remembering me. That's why I think he just said
Wasn't a composting toilet legal in the Borough and the Clevis Margaret? Wasn't that we're talking about toilets earlier? But wasn't
But no, he couldn't have used that because you have to have a basement.
Oh, that's right. That's to
The
get
house
down.
didn't have
Oh, he
basement,
was-
so that wouldn't work. No, it was, I think, a conventional, just an outhouse. And it was illegal to do that in Canada. And they wouldn't give him the variance. I don't remember. I was gone by the time they figured out what happened.
Canterbury's in the news right now because there's a man called River Dan who's been a hermit living for 27 years in a cabin he built in a Canterbury Woods area. He's been a hermit, and it's just in the news this week that the original people who owned the land and said he could stay there forever actually sold the land sometime, and now it's owned by someone in Vermont, and they want him gone. And he's actually right now in Merrimack County Jail because he wouldn't leave. And they're taking down his cabin, which is going to make me cry.
Something about my brain.
So, Ren, what's your favorite clamshell story? I don't know if I got a favorite.
You got many.
Wait, tell about the first Bank of Boston. How you got us up to the boardroom table.
How we get up there?
Yeah, how you scouted it out ahead of time.
We just let ourselves in.
Wait a minute, you scouted it out.
Yeah.
You went ahead of time and pretended to be a rube.
I was just like looking around, trying to find my way to the place. I just hit the button for the second floor and
We're not supposed to be off the main floor.
off the main floor and just went, opened it up, saw the boardroom there, looked like a comfortable place to have a meeting, and came back a little while later.
Here's how I heard it. I heard it that you went up illegally off the main floor of the bank,
Right.
and some security guard came up to you and said, "What are you doing up here?" And you said, "I heard that you have the biggest boardroom table in the world." So the guy forgot to be stern with you that you shouldn't be there. Instead, he took you to see it.
Tour guide.
Yeah, he took you to see it.
It was very helpful. It
Yeah,
was nice.
right. So that way you knew how to take us to the boardroom.
So for the record, Ren, now that you can probably divulge secrets, could you tell the story about how you and the crew got the flag of the New York Stock Exchange?
Oh.
I just went into the stock exchange.
Well, this was part of the 50th anniversary.
Try to figure out how we make a demand upon Wall Street to stop nuclear investment and fund human needs. 50th anniversary of the 1929 crash. So it overlooked Wall Street that had these flags hanging out on them. So I just, new inspiration, I thought it was a nice looking New York Stock Exchange flag. So I just kind of took the flag and reeled it in and unclipped it and took it under my arm and walked out and walked into the subway station and saved it as a souvenir.
And where is it now, Ren?
It's at my house. I had it for a while. I used it for a while. It's like a humongous flag. But it was kind of funky smelling because it had all that diesel and stuff like that. It smelled like New York City. And then I remember for a while, Jay Adams, Jay Whitecrow he had like a teepee out there and started. So I let Jay use it as like a tarp for his teepee. It wrapped around.
Was it a bedspread for somebody in Seabrook?
Yeah, I get a bedspread.
At the Quaker House there? Or?
Yeah, it's getting. It's seen better times, but I have some sentimental attachment to it.
So my next question about this story, though, is what did the stock exchange do the next day when their flag was in? My recollection is they took all the flags down.
They took all. If there were no flags there, they didn't want to make sure they didn't work for me. It was not. It was just. You know, I don't know. It was just kind of a impulsive maybe I don't know if it falls into vandalism or just basic souvenir hunting.
With a lot of confidence.
They have the same 5-year.
I understand in retrospect it would have been hard for me to make a case that there was some kind of higher moral calling that necessitated stealing that flag from the stock exchange. But I was kind of like, are you kidding me? You let me up there. I'm a kid from Hampton, man. I'm like, I could just walk in here, the New York Stock Exchange, walk up to the flag, everything's going on, take the flag down, walk out and go to the subway system. I didn't think it through.
Well, it was training. If you're going to indulge in any merry pranksterism, you have to have practice.
It was that. I thought it was a great souvenir.
I think it's also a good story of how security has changed this country since 9/11.
Let me tell you a story about security too. I was at that action in Wall Street, and we had linked arms and we surrounded the whole Wall Street complex. And the employees were still trying to come to work. And this woman came walking at me, and I'm going to say she was dressed to all the heels and a fur coat and everything. She worked there. And behind me there was a policeman. Well, there was a policeman behind us. We were in front of the policeman at that place. And she was walking toward me. And the policeman behind me said, I thought to me, don't hurt her. I thought he was talking to me. He was talking over my shoulder to her. And the policeman was saying about me, don't hurt her. Right? And I turned around and I looked at it and wow, thank you. You know, that was really very nice of him. I mean, I think
there was one little story. I wasn't there Monday because I had to get back to work or I would be fired with them. Because the president of my local came, we had a crew from Laconia Shoe that came down, but we had to be back to work on Monday, otherwise we wouldn't have a job. So, but either it was Friday night or Saturday, we decided, I don't remember if you were with us or not, we grabbed some leaflets and we were walking through the area leafleting people about the demonstration and talking about it. And we go by this little pocket park, and I look over and I see this woman, a short woman, about your size, with a great big hat. No, you know who it was? Bella Abs.
Oh!
So, were you there?
So
I said, wow, there's Bella Abs. Why don't we go give her a leaflet and talk to her? And she was having a party. They were drinking champagne and just a small crew. And so we walked over, introduced ourselves, and started talking to her. And she was celebrating, they were celebrating, I think it was the 100th anniversary of public transportation in New York. And one of the people there was somebody that worked on Wall Street. And kind of came up, it wasn't like a lot of people, it was just like a handful, maybe 10 people. And, but it's kind of like, you got to envision, here's this little park, and here's these people drinking champagne with their congressperson. And so, transportation. And that's it. I mean, there's just like this big group is celebrating, 100th anniversary of public transportation, Conway. And anyways, this guy kind of takes somebody aside and says, he worked in the stock market. He said, you're right. You're right. It's all just a fabrication.
I can remember before that action, though, one of those things, like, meeting, like, there were people, like, those day I don't even know what they are, people who work this time, but they were unionized, they're part of a union. So, wanted to, have a conversation with, like, the local union shop steward, the president explained, yeah, we're going to come, we're going to shut down Wall Street, and once we redirect and reorder the priorities, we're not trying to, our beef is not with you, but it's just a conversation.
I wanted to say something about security and how things have changed. So in 1965, I was in D.C. for some demonstrations, and we were going to have we had a demonstration at the Pentagon, inside of the Pentagon, and it was illegal.
It was legal.
It was legal.
In the hallways?
No, it was down near, well, there must be 100 people in there, but it was right near one of the cafeterias. And there was a spot. And they said we could have, they actually said inside the Pentagon. So in the process, of course, we all had these, end of war stickers, and, depending on what side of the sectarian divide you were in now when the troops were just in the war. And so we walked. I remember walking around, and I took a end the war sticker and put it on the door of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I mean, it's like we did all the bathrooms, of course, but I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine that now that you could actually walk by the? I mean, you know, these gigantic wooden doors, and this is like, you know, the head of the Joint Chiefs. And now you probably couldn't get within, you know, a mile of the place. I don't know. Yeah, we smartened them up and changed that. Some of us decided to go vigil. So there's that road that goes right around the Pentagon, and just on one side, this is a walkway, grassy spot. And so we had a vigil there one night, a handful of us. And I remember, this is one of my memories I'd probably never go, how this limousine pulled up, and this general got out, and he had his son and daughter in the car with him. And he got out to make a point. He said, he looked at us and he told his kid, that's what's wrong with America. That was, we had a peaceful vigil at least. Yeah, and I'll never forget that. I mean, it was at night. It was, you know, just
Did you get back in the car and left?
yeah.
I graduated from high school in 1963, and I can remember being in my bedroom and, pardon? But I had some women's magazine, and I remember where it was on the desk in my bedroom. And I'd read the first time about Vietnam. There was an article by a woman whose husband had died in Vietnam, and she was so tired of telling people where it was, and that people didn't know what she did. Where's Vietnam, and why did your husband die there? And he was one of the early, you know, incursions of us being there as military, but public didn't know it, you know. So there was this like Women's Day or something article about how frustrating it was for her to try to tell people where it was, even. You know, just it was so much at the beginning. It was about 62.
60 years later, that's the same thing. And that's where your clothes come.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, a Vietnam vet, Ray Pino.
Yeah, I remember that.
So he was one of those ones that, you know, by the time he was there, he was the leading point. And the whole thing was not to get hurt, you know, not to fight. Anyways,
Be an advisor.
No, he was not an advisor. They had guns. Anyways, so his group gets together for a reunion, you know, 30 years later, and he shows me, he says, he said, they had these hats made, you know, Vietnam War veterans, whatever. And he said, look inside. Made in Vietnam.
Oh.
That's pretty wild. Yeah. That is very wild. We used to buy in the Tanger Outlet Mall near us. I like Henley's, you know, the church without collars, and this is a Carhartt, winter wearing Carhartt, because they're made much better but J. Crew is where we're going by, you know, the Henleys there. And each one, you could go the same matching one. One would say India, the next one would say Vietnam, the next one would say Thailand. They actually made the same shirts, even the same colors, and they were made in different countries later. But yeah, they're coming on strong with Vietnam. I think I don't know where the Carhartts are made. Probably Salvador, some, yeah.
Well, when I started wearing Carhartts, they were all union made.
Yeah,
and still I think the overalls are union made in the U.S.
I just
don't think anything
really
else.
in the back of it. I think
I always like Carhartt.
They're made so much better. The Carhartts are made so much better than the stuff from J. Crew and stuff. I just found them. It's worth the extra, you know, $10 a shirt or something for a shirt that's going to last 5 times longer, you know, than.
What do you prefer when you go to Sutler Street? Where do you do your trading?
Well, these days I'm just wearing Carhartt.
Oh, there we go.
Are they pass-me-downs or are they new ones?
No,
They kind of go both directions. I'll be
pass-me-ups, right?
I have gotten used to in my family all the Carhartts being mine. But now I'll put on a pair of gray Carhartts, for example, and I'll marvel at the fact that they have no cuts, they have no stains. I say, I didn't know I had such a clean cut pair of Carhartts.
And you didn't.
And then Fiona will say, hey, why
These
are
are
you
my
wearing
pants,
my
Dad. Come
Carhartts?
on, jeez, Dad.
Because we wear the same size.
Did you knit your sweater?
No. I got it at a thrift store.
Oh, it looks like it might be handmade though.
When,
It's Old Woolrich.
Oh, it is an old Woolrich. That's a good label.
yeah. When Marcy went away to St. Paul's, well, she graduated in 91, so it would be 87,
Yeah.
88. She took a pair of my pajama bottoms, which were like, how would you describe it? Colorful, black and white. They were just something that, you know,
Soft and
soft. So she took them because she used to like to wear them around the house. And then Lynn and I would go for years and come to the campus to see different young girls wearing those around my pajama bottoms. I mean, different people, people we didn't even know were wearing my pajama bottoms.
Because they passed their clothes around.
That's hilarious.
I'm at the point I've been going through. I managed to not throw away a lot of T-shirts in my lifetime. Trying to get some stuff away, but I get it. It's great because my daughter still go through. Like, there's nothing like wearing T-shirts for like a 1980s disarmament. I mean, activities that took place, historical moment before they were born, and the T-shirts. I didn't wear them out, so there's a lot of them.
Are they going in the archives?
Give them away there.
I used to do a
I mean,
presentation.
the archives
on
at
T-shirts.
UNH or?
Yeah, to tell the history of the J Strikes and T-shirts.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And then all those are up at the archives at the University of Maryland.
So they take those shirts into the archives.
Most anything. I mean, if it's relevant to the cause.
I just found Shuck Mel.
Oh,
wow.
Did you?
Oh, the clams.
Yeah, and it looks like it's brand new.
Right.
There's a poster on eBay right now. No, it was in Brunswick. We saw it at a flea market thing, indoors, of a clam poster. It's like a 10-mile radius poster.
Yeah.
And it's going for like $400 or $500.
Wow.
Oh hell.
Yeah.
You got
Well,
money.
those posters on the wall in there?
Yeah.
Did you see the movie Grosse Point Blank?
Yes.
Anybody?
No.
There's a Seabrook Seabrook
Really?
nuclear plant
It's,
poster in the girls' wall.
I think it's the June '78
Okay.
on the wall.
And it's on.
And it's bright orange.
And the camera lingers on it a moment.
What?
In the movie.
Oh yeah.
The camera lingers on it.
Yep.
You
Oh
go,
yeah,
hey!
it's worth watching
Grosse Point Blank.
Okay,
just to catch the poster.
The Chuck Mel one, you got me one. It's hanging in my closet. And just yesterday, when I was looking through for things to bring and put in the knapsack to take with us, I remember stopping and looking at that. I should have brought it. And well, you know what it is. I think I'm bigger than I was then, so I think you put it on and it doesn't really, So, but it's just funny you say that because I just saw it yesterday.
My favorite poster, which I had framed and on the wall in my office, so to speak, is the Armory Ball.
Yeah, I love stuff.
That's my favorite of all time.
I'm
Who
actually.
did that? It was just
It wasn't Carter Wentworth, but it was somebody that I can't remember what it was. Kind of a nice bunch of. I still think I have a few actually.
Was this the
Maybe.
Portsmouth Armory?
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Armory,
I remember
All
that.
the hands of the shoes.
Sweet, did it say Sweet 16 and never been turned on?
No, that's later.
First anniversary,
It's a
like
circle with shoes.
National
Oh
Guard
yes,
Armory.
right.
Defines
Well,
people by their footwear.
Yes.
It was the one where we had to have a little discussion with the.
Renny, how many times did you beat the governor in court on that one?
Whether we could both oppose nuclear power and dance in public.
What about the contract that the governor wanted to type, the legally binding contract that you would
For
sign?
paying for your room and board?
Yeah, we did that. No, it's funny. I got all that stuff. I'm trying to figure out. Gonna end up shipping my stuff to UMass.
They'll come and get it. You don't have to ship it.
No, I'm bringing it.
You're going to bring it down?
Yeah, I had this huge crisis about what to do with my I'm so parochial.
Yeah.
Are you leaving?
I have to go to
I gotta gossip with you.
I know.
You have to explain to me what it was like to spend 2 decades, your entire formative year, being here, growing up in the midst of the World Fellowship Center, how that's shaped you and informs your work and continues day to day, and how weird was it to have parents that had all these like crazy friends that would come in and out in your life and stuff. And something exactly like that. And watch you grow up. You think like, for some was like, oh my God, she's getting oh, she walks now. Oh, now she does dishes.
Good one.
She walks, she does dishes.
You have your father's pants and your mother's laugh.
Right.
That's
I've
great.
been getting that a lot these days.
Right.
What, the pants or the laugh?
The last.
What year are you going into in school?
My senior.
Senior year. What are you studying?
Child development.
Super.
She's studying her childhood.
And how the Kennett experience was for you.
It was, I felt well served. But, you know, I came from financial stability and home stability with support network, so it was easy for teachers to support me. So I think, I had a lot of experience there. Most, or not a lot of people.
I was trying to get a handle assessment on how the different, schools in the state can, if they come positive. I don't know if it's a cooperative, but it's definitely draws from all the other communities.
Yeah, it's 8 towns.
Are you on that committee, Renny?
What?
Education committee?
No, but I'm curious about it because Reconstruction cooperative school district with those 4 towns. Education's under attack in the state. It's just public education under attack. So, privatization, and then of course, what you can and can't teach.
Oh God.
We can't teach that we're a racist country.
This new House bill in Texas wants to take Martin Luther King out of the stories.
Right.
Is that the one that's challenged right now?
It was. My congressman is Jamie Raskin, and he had. They had a House government reform
when you
hearing
going this evening?
On C-SPAN a couple of days ago, where they went over this. He just raked it over the polls. Had the Texas majority leader in.
But you work. Are they mostly Kennedy?
It's good.
Like your
good archive to watch.
The first time I saw him was at the
grilled cheese
impeachment.
sandwiches.
I mean, I watched him on TV.
It's all kids I
And I said, well, that name is familiar. And then I saw where he came from. I knew his father.
Race is moving
forward. Policies. No wonder he was.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe a congressman could lay things out the way he was laying them out.
Company called 3
Degrees. Because I heard it, but it was like, where did this come from?
Well, we have affinity with Jamie because he was at the Muse concert.
Companies and people become
a while ago.
Yeah.
Reduce its imprint to try to basically try to do green energy stuff. So it's a company that's got a bunch of three different offices. It was started by these guys and people in San Francisco, and part of it's like trading energy credits. Trying to switch people to get off of fossil fuels. To say,
we were in Armories.
So it's, it's a plant being company, so it's really
May 1st.
She started this job. She was living in Salt Lake City. She got the job, and they're kind of on ramp to now. And now they're opening up an office.
I was in Rockingham County Jail.
So she's looking for a place to
guilty.
grow.
A bunch of us
pleaded guilty. The office is just opening up.
We took no wrong turns.
Andy, what with the news now that she'll have access to good.
No, I also had to go to work
grilled
on
cheese
Monday.
sandwiches from your company.
This was another. This was before the Coda issue. This was at Congress River in North Berwick, and but my assignment was
Oh, I'm really excited.
2 armories that they weren't getting any word out of.
Kind of
over.
Came back
and
like
the other was Summersworth. And my assignment was to get in.
You know, like
both of those armories.
Like a
to talk
very
get word
happily
out again?
or to
camped
get
out
in.
at Armories.
And I did.
Well, she's going back and forth.
And it was really easy. And it was, to me, it was a lesson about the kind of class background of clamshell people in general.
Plus, she's doing good work.
She go to work Monday morning because I'd been Sunday.
She got her degree in
I
environmental.
was working on that.
Whatever it was.
on the whole thing. Support.
The green stuff, I don't get all
so
the whole
I start
details
talking
of
to
the
people
concept
at work,
as much as I have a conversation with her. She explains everything much more detail.
Within minutes,
although
one
we
of the
just got,
maintenance guys
had
a bar
they just got a contract
in
with
Dover,
Amazon
not
to
too
like
far from the Army,
get
the
rid
last
of
chance.
a zillion
He
tons
said,
of
"Oh, why don't you come over after
CO2
work?" He
whatever.
said, "There's always
trying to work
National
with
Guardsmen hanging out at the bar,
work with
down and out on the bar." And then one of my best friends at work said, "Oh, one of his best friends actually manned the phone. He was in the National Guard in Somerset."
She says, "We'll be working safe on the planet."
So we just went over to the phone. He called his friend up in the Army, and he explained the situation. What do you want to know?
Really likes kind of the people.
He said, just have the Clamshell call me. I'll tell them. So I called the office, and they called him, and it was just about anybody out of medicine, the usual stuff. So in a way, I get into Somerset pretty quick. And that afternoon,
that's all the gossip.
I go over to the bar.
But I'll see you for we'll have more gossip. We're
my
going to
friend
adult
is
gossip
working
now.
the bar, and
the
maintenance guy. And he said, "I don't see anyone." I said, "Oh, see that guy over there on the table, big heavy guy, kind of been drinking too much." He said, "He's a national guard. Go talk to him." So I go sit down with the guy, explain my situation.
Well,
it turned out he was AWOL that day. He was also kind of drunk. And he said,
"So this is my brain." So my brain.
God damn it! He says, "I'll get you in there." He didn't tell me how. He said, "Give me a ride up." So we get in my truck and go over to the Army, which is like half a mile from the bar.
I could score you one for you.
He said, "I'm going to go in." He says, "You wait here."
I actually seriously didn't think of that.
I get myself into that.
I don't know.
And about half an hour later, he comes back out and he says, "Come on in." He says, "I want to introduce you to the recruiting sergeant."
Just have her meet.
So he takes me into this room where all the officers are, and now it's up to me. You got me in the armory. That's all I'd ask. So I'm in there, and the recruiting sergeant comes out and he says, "This is not really a good time." He said, "Maybe we could do this some other time." I said, "No." I said, "I just got laid off. I got to do something." So he said, "Well, give me a minute." And he goes. About 10 minutes later, he comes back with some papers, and then he has to go again. He leaves me. So now I'm talking to all the officers. They're getting to know me.
He's maybe getting recruited.
Yeah, no, I played the game.
Somersworth Armory.
In the Somersworth Armory.
Oh, God, okay.
No, I think Renny knows the story. Anyway, so at some point when I finally got their confidence, and the recruiting sergeant was out someplace, I said, "Geez, I got to take a look at this." And the guy said, "Well, just go in there." But he said, "That's where they are." He said, "So,
That's the Clams.
They're where the Clams are." So I go into the bathroom and there was one small guy at the urinal, and I'm in a rush because I don't know how long this is going to last. And there's the urinals on this side and the toilets on this side. And I actually picked him up, put him in a stall with me because I didn't have much time. And he's, of course, shaking like what, I kind of identified with him later, but I mean, at the time I had to do something quick. And so I explained myself. Of course, initially he doesn't believe me. Finally he does. And then I get all the information I want. I go back out. I tell the recruiting sergeant that, "Well, okay, let's do it some other day. I'm going to go home." So that's how I get in. And how it all came down, because I had no idea how this guy was going to get me in there. I just had to play along. But while I'm out there waiting in my truck, there was also another little incident that someone who was inside, his wife was waiting outside, and she went in to get him and found him with another woman and bailed him out. And I'm watching this whole thing and all the shit that happened when they got outside. But not a story I think that made it into Clam law, but some of those things happened with us. But anyways, it was just a fun time.
So the urinal part makes me think that you might not know about in 1990, during the lead up to the licensing, I was staff for the New Hampshire Central American Network, so I happened to be in Concord. So I decided that I would sit in the governor's office every afternoon to demand that he meet with the Clams. And
This is Greg?
Yeah. So the first couple of days I got arrested. And then I realized I was just kind of antagonizing the office staff, and I wanted to kind of win over the office staff. So I decided that I would continue to sit in every afternoon for like an hour or two and, read my book and wait for a meeting with the governor. And then I would leave when they told me to leave at the end of the day. And so I did develop a nice relationship with the receptionist particularly, but the governor's chief of staff was respectful towards me and so forth. Not that he
Is that Mayola?
I think so, yeah. Joe Mayola, right? So this one particular afternoon, it's towards the end of the afternoon. I know I'm leaving shortly, so I figure I'll go use the bathroom before going back across the street to the Central American Network office, because I was also I was sleeping on the floor of the office then. I didn't have another place to stay, so it was my social thing in the afternoon before going back to be alone in 80 North Main Street.
Oh, that little tiny office way
Classic
upstairs.
story.
You know that.
Sleep in the office. Of course you can sleep.
He's the famous left-wing semanticist from BU.
Chomsky?
Chomsky. So Richard Grossman gets a meeting with Chomsky, and him and I go, Mary Septinek, and we have to go by the 5 camera crews from all over the world that are waiting to talk to him and get into his office, which it's a trick to find his office. Anyways, we have this meeting about a half an hour or so. We have a few disagreements about labor stuff, but it was kind of friendly. But I didn't ever get the feeling that he was really listening. But anyways, we get ready to go. I said, well, where's the bathroom? And he said, oh, it's pretty hard to find. He said, well, go here, take a left, take a right. So I go, and then he shows up. And we actually had a discussion at the urinals. Well, the only time I really got to talk to Chomsky was, taking a leak.
Okay, so that interruption serves as a very good segue.
Yes.
Because I went to the bathroom. I pull up at the urinal, and who should I look over to my left, and who should be there but Judd Gregg. So as Judd Gregg is shaking off, I say, Governor, I really wish you'd reconsider your refusal to meet with the Clamshell Alliance, and I forget what else. Then he walks out the door and he starts striding with his long steps down the hallway towards his office, and I'm trying to keep up with him. I can't remember what else I said, but he gets to his door, he opens it, he steps behind it, he says, I just finished meeting with you, and then he slams at the door.
Oh, that was you. You were the meeting.
You were at the meeting.
In the bathroom.
Oh, and by the way, Governor, your fly is still
I
down.
thought that's what it was going to be. I thought that was going to be it. Then he interrupted him.
I know that bathroom.
Yeah.
I know that bathroom.
You know that bathroom well.
Everything takes too long.
Hey,
Hey, bro.
Steve.
Bro, how you doing, man?
Come have a seat and join us.
That's what I had here.
We're telling stories.
It was a Ben Franklin.
That's what I had here. Then we had to rearrange stuff.
Nice
Big,
to
like,
see you.
just in a...
I had never finished it before, so I get to the end of the story and I say, and that's the way it must have been, because that's the way it was told to me on a bar stool in a pub in Limerick many long years ago while goddamn Ronald Reagan was being elected president of the United States.
That's a great ending.
Yes, 1980.
And I had a good breakfast that morning.
People said, I didn't see that ending
coming. I have a story from the 1977, your armory arrest, as the first big arrest at Seabrook, is that I was a UNH student then, and I didn't know about Seabrook. Look how close I was. I was in Durham. But I didn't read the newspaper then. I was just doing student work. And but I went to a writers' conference that summer in Bloomington, Indiana, the only one I've ever been to. And Marge Piercy and
Ira.
Marge and Grace Paley were two of my teachers.
Wow.
And,
They've both been here.
They'd both been arrested at the armory. And I think, so that was May 1st, you said? And I think I was there, it was summer, June or July, probably July. And we had a writer's workshop, we had round tables for dinner, different writers would sit at different tables with the students. And they were at my table this one night, and they realized I was from New Hampshire, and they started talking to me about Seabrook, and I didn't know anything. So they said, we're going to walk you downtown and tell you about Seabrook. So after dinner, they took me, and it was when frozen yogurt was brand new. They said, we're going to buy you your first frozen yogurt and tell you about Seabrook. So I walked downtown with them, and they just filled me in on everything to do with Seabrook. So they're probably my very first link to thinking, I'm against this.
And where were they from?
Marge is Cape Cod, and Grace was Vermont and New York City. Yeah. And what I remember is they got me my first frozen yogurt and told me about Seabrook. And Marge stepped out of our direct route to buy some plaid hair ribbons for her niece. I don't think Marge ever had kids. I think she's childless, so this niece was a special person to her. So I feel like because of that, Seabrook connection right there.
Frozen yogurt and
Frozen
nuclear power.
Frozen yogurt, nuclear power. Yeah. Summer of 1977.
When were you at UNH as a student?
I was there from first at 63 to 67, and then I stayed right on. I got my master's degree, and I also started a PhD later. I never finished it.
I started in 63.
Oh, you did? Huh.
I left in after my first semester sophomore year because I really had gotten good at ping pong and pool.
Oh,
But
ping pong and
It
pool.
wasn't serious. So
Yeah.
Took a year off, got married, came back, and it was serious.
Yeah, that made a
That
difference.
made a difference. Yeah, I remember November 22nd. We were playing football on the floor. People running out of the
Oh, yeah.
Moyer Union crying.
Yeah, yeah. I was in my dorm room, and some people came and woke me up and said, the president has been shot. And I thought they were joking. I said, what? I need to snap right now. No, really, the president has been shot. And also I had a sociology class, a history class that same day. Mr. Linder.
Yeah, Linden.
Linden.
Alan Linden.
Yeah, were you in that class?
I was in a class. So
Oh.
I probably in your class.
Yeah, because he came in and he was very solemn and he said, I cannot teach today. The president has been shot.
Remember that cute young woman who sat in the front row? That was Lynn.
Yeah, exactly. I was in the front row.
I was in history. I was in a history class when they announced it too. I remember that. I remember exactly where I was. And someone came in and said something to the instructor and this and that, and then I think they did we roll a TV in there, or did we go down to another room of the cafeteria?
Probably they weren't
They wouldn't have rolling TVs.
No,
You're
rolling
right.
TVs.
But I remember this. I remember riding in a car with it was my cousin, the other day going into Boston for something, and I remember thinking the person been killed and looking around and seeing everything still functioning. There was a policeman running, traffic thing. I don't know if it was radar back then, but it was a traffic thing and this, and everything was functioning, still going. And I remember saying, sort of awed by the fact, this continues, the organization, the government, everything. And thinking it was pretty cool that things just didn't crumble and fall apart because the president, which was a terrible thing, but the system kept going, everything around. For some reason that hit me. I don't know why. At the time it really hit me. That wow.
Kennedy came. I was at the University of Maine in Arnold, and he came and spoke 2 weeks before he was assassinated.
Really?
And he spoke on the football field, and there was no security basically. I mean, he just walked out there.
That's how it was.
But in retrospect, the speech he gave was a foreign policy speech, which is a lot of what got him killed. I mean, he described
Vietnam.
Well, it was Vietnam, the Test Ban Treaty. That's in. I went back and read it a while back, and it was just like wow.
My uncle.
They gave us we had 3 days of school. It was 3 days there.
My uncle had a deli in Boston. No, actually in Dorchester, on Blue Hill Avenue in Boston, which was called the G&G Deli, way back in our family on that side. And all the politicians, including Kennedy and everyone, would come there because the results took longer. They didn't have computers and everything like that, and they'd sit there all night waiting for the results. They come in, they'd sit there in the deli, and they kept it open all night that night, and for the political results coming from the Boston elections and the Massachusetts elections.
I lived in upstate New York when Kennedy was elected, and it's very Catholic up there. It's very French Canadian Catholic. But I was a Protestant. Not that, but I was only a teenager then. And so the Protestants, including me, we put on black armbands because we're saying now the United States is going to be run by the Pope.
Right.
Because Kennedy was a Catholic
Pope
president.
can't even run the church.
It's a good thing.
The president can't run the United States either.
That's true.
Was the Catholic elected?
Yeah, in upstate New York, very, the Protestants were a very minority. But we put on black armbands.
I remember thinking it was cool.
You remember thinking it was cool?
Yeah,
I
it
did
was
too.
Catholic. Oh no, it was like, yeah, because like Hampshire was like all Republican.
Well, I wasn't a thinking person yet. Had to go to UNH and leave New York State.
I just know that it was good to have a president who said the same "Our Father" that I did. 'Cause I used to hate they'd make us,
The lengthened one.
the Protestant Our Father. You can't say that because I was sure if I even started to mumble those words of thinking, I know I'd end up in hell, but I couldn't feather mumble jumble. But it was cool. It was like one of ours. Like, all right, we'll get through this.
See, the Protestants were right.
I just thought it was great having a guy who was playing football in the yard with his kids after having this old golfer who his story was a gallstone that he had, and it was so boring that I was thinking, this is great.
Yeah, I grew up hearing Ike, and there was some point where I thought, we're not going to have the same president? I didn't realize.
I know, he went on and on and on.
I totally remember that. For me, it was when the election of '68, when I heard that Johnson wasn't going to be president anymore, and I just assumed the president was the president.
Yeah.
What?
That's what Trump was thinking too.
Yeah, still is. Reinstated in August.
He'll be wearing an orange jumpsuit.
Yeah, I think so. That would be fun.
There's a lot of change.
It's good they're talking about it right now.
Orange jumpsuit, so it like maxes.
That's the hair.
His hair and
Mixes
his skin color.
complexion. Yeah.
So Steve, how's Connecticut? You got it all under control these days still?
Well, I tell you, like New Hampshire legislature, the Connecticut legislature, which I don't follow much anymore, has been doing so much stuff. I mean, they really pushed it, both in terms of financial stuff. So, like all our state-funded nursing homes got the raises that they needed to get.
They did. Good.
Yeah, we did they did a lot of civil disobedience this year, more than they'd ever done before. It's stopping traffic in the streets and taking over buildings.
These are $11.99 or just general?
$11.99. Yeah, and they asked me to come in and give a little bit of history. Zoom, it was all Zoom, But I was just even that little bit. I was really happy to be part of it. So they did an amazing job, and as usual. At the last minute, the day before, the governor says, "You got all your money, and I'm calling out the National Guard." And then 2 days later, we win. Because
good,
nobody's as bad as that John Rowland that we had a long time ago, but he's this guy Lamont is. We ran Lamont against Joe Lieberman.
I remember.
Right?
Yeah.
Because he was our little white hope.
Wait, which one?
Lamont.
Yeah.
Lieberman had been around Connecticut forever, and
he kept getting worse.
Yeah.
Well, Lieberman plus Gore was hard to swallow.
I remember asking Lieberman a question when he was running for president. I think it was at the Met Coffee House in North Conway. And I don't remember what the question was, but I just remember this. I struggle for metaphorical language to describe what his eyes did. it was either something reptilian or some. I think I lean that way over the Steely. That like he just like there was something really frightening about Joe leaving.
He's a piece of work.
What is he doing now? Nothing? I mean, just living? He's not dead.
He's digging his way to hell. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear things have improved in Connecticut. I told these folks the story of our family was driving south to Tennessee and Florida, and my car's covered with Democratic bumper stickers. Got Social Security, thank Democrats. Got Medicare, thank Democrats.
Weekend off.
Yeah. And so all the way down, I get these beeps and thumbs up and all this stuff. But I'm driving through Connecticut, and 15 minutes apart, I got two of these.
Really?
You know, yeah. Yeah, it was really strange.
Probably in Waterbury.
The thing I liked about January 7th was going around driving through Sanford, and there were 7 huge Trump signs, Trump pens, and they crossed out pens.
Oh,
blacked out pens.
Really? So he should be
January
hung.
7th, yeah. Because he,
yeah, obviously he did.
The day after the bombing in before 9/11, there was a federal, yes. And everybody was assuming it was an Arab attack. In Waterbury, there was this big sign. I was driving up from New York, and it said, "The only good Arab is a dead Arab." And the next time I went through, it was gone. So it was only up for like a day.
Waterbury's the place that has a giant crucifix on top of the highest hill there. It's just you just can't miss it. And you wonder, is this like some kind of commercial or an advertisement?
It was one guy who did that.
No, it's Holy Land USA.
all the factories are gone, you gotta have something.
That's right. Well, actually, right across the street basically is the old one of the mills. And it's a shop, brass mill, and it was a shop. Now it's a shopping mall.
Big shopping mall with movie theaters.
What's Brother Swan up to these days?
He's busy too. At the legislature, they were doing a lot. They did a lot of electoral reform stuff. They did some prisoner reform stuff.
We get free phone calls from prisoners.
Free phone calls, unlimited.
I guess.
There goes a profit center for state government, county government. You know?
Yeah. So it was a pretty good year.
I read something years back about how expensive they had to get phone cards and do this, and it cost them like $1 a minute, some crazy amounts.
Insane.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, and the families are the ones.
It ends up becoming the profit center. It ends up becoming the revenue source. And the budget of like the county jails and the state prison found New Hampshire did away with it. They're still trying to fight with it, but it's exorbitant.
Did New Hampshire make the changes?
The Department of Corrections actually did do that. So they went to this new, it's not free, but it's like, you know, a penny a minute. They did a...
When are they going to bring back the chain gang?
They probably haven't done stuff.
You know, we're kind of, we're in the midst of some contradictions.
That's just being a smart ass.
I understand, but Pete, it's a smart ass question. It's a smart ass comment about a serious.
Because you can go to certain apps online and it's free to call anywhere in the United States. I mean, certain apps you can.
Yeah, well, they don't like. That is one that you have. Like a device that you have in your possession.
You got to be able to pull that.
Gets into the internet.
You got to be able to pull that phone on your ass in order to make a call every time.
Yeah, people, it's a big contraband item in prisons.
Yeah.
Our cell phones.
Hence
I remember the
reference
chain
to
gangs from Alabama in the 60s, and then in the, I think it was 1980, I took my 350 Yamaha down to North Carolina to chase Homer Sugar, and I remember seeing a chain gang, and I just I got off my motorcycle.
Yeah.
And in Alabama, it was like they'd get the weekend, they just get the weekends off. And the way we got to know them was every time they'd be in their trucks, and you'd throw a pack of cigarettes.
Were they sitting in the back of trucks like a load of?
They weren't sitting, they were standing.
Oh,
yeah,
standing.
like cattle. Yeah.
Oh, like cattle.
And going to whatever road they were going to work on, and we'd pass them and throw them cigarettes. And then part of it was because if you ever ended up in jail, you'd have some
friends. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
in a county jail.
We did some horse shows in Memphis, in Murfreesboro, I think it was, Tennessee. Long time ago. And we were setting up for a county horse show in Murfreesboro. And, we serviced the country for portable horse stalls and tents for shows. And the one in Murfreesboro, one of the directors of the show was the sheriff and everything. Our guys were out there working. He said, "Hey, let me get you some help." And he called, and they brought a bus over full of guys from the county jail to put up the horse stalls, help with it and everything. And I remember that, and I said, "Would it?" I remember saying, "Would it be okay if we bought lunch and brought it in for everyone? Like fast food or whatever, the sub sandwiches." And he said, "Sure, they'd like that. Go ahead and do it." And I just remember that, like free labor, just brought him down to help with the.
I'm not sure if free is the right word.
Yeah, that's right. They were
slave labor.
No, but I just remember that. I was sort of like, wow. I wonder if these guys had a say in it, or would they say to them, "Hey, you want to get out for the day?" You can't know whether they said you, and you get on the bus. I don't know what but I remember them about 12 guys or something.
They really, since we're legislator, still are.
Yeah.
Still are. I corresponded with a prisoner in Concord prison. He'd gone to Berlin for a short time, or maybe a few years, and he's back to Concord. And he wanted, he's probably 72 or so now. He wanted to die. He knows how much it costs every year to have him there. Yeah. He's in for life. And he wanted to die while his organs were still good and donate them. So, but he's not allowed to do that. But he felt like, this is going on for a long, long time. I cost X amount every year. And meanwhile, my corneas are good, my skin is good, and all this. And there's no option for him to just say, "I want to check out now and donate my organs while they're still useful to somebody." Yeah. Which is an interesting problem, isn't it?
Well, I think one might make the argument that given the totality of his circumstances, it's somewhat of a coercive situation.
Yeah.
I would think
it's
so.
like
It's a slippery slope.
All things being equal, would you rather give up your corneas and die, or would you just rather get out and still be able to use your corneas?
Well, he's not going to get out. Which also suddenly makes me think of hearing. I don't know, but Chinese prisoners sometimes are harvested, even without their consent.
Well, Chinese, the Chinese execution method is they harvest organs.
When they kill people.
Yeah, execution.
And neither they don't need consent for that either.
They're killing them anyhow, so
didn't he get out for it?
They time it.
Oh, different.
They time the execution, so
Right. So you're on some list of being on a list.
harvester.
Weird shit. Talking about prisoners, I'm remembering we got it on August 9th, 1976. Roddy Welch, Ron Rick, me, and Anton Elbers walked up to the executive floor of Public Service Company and sat in, and they, we said, we wanted them to, we were there to make the connection between nuclear weapons and nuclear power, and we weren't leaving. And as I recall, the same time we were up there was a hostage crisis in Manchester in one of the other buildings, and the police were called in not knowing which was which. And
two different buildings.
so they came in with guns out, and it quickly calmed down. Very quickly. And one of the cops says, "Well, why aren't you guys out against food additives?" One of the cops said that to us. And but we got arrested and we got shipped off to Grassmere. And I'm remembering that while we were there, we were looking to take advantage of just getting out and doing work. So we sort of were on a chain gang, but it was we were haying for the county. And Ron convinced our guards that was taking us out to the hayfield to stop in at a supermarket, and we would go in and make the fixings for Switchell. So the guards let us in, and I think they even helped us pay for it. But we made Switchell and took it out into the hayfield.
That's a haying drink.
That's a chain gang.
They didn't ask you to go set up any political horse stalls, did they?
No.
Like somehow, housing development is kind of condos, but
when I was in high school, what? I'm sorry. When I was in high school, I worked for another uncle of mine, that had a company called Britex Chemical, and they were in Lewis Wharf in Boston, which he sold and moved out to. Like 10 years later, Lewis Wharf in Boston became like the highest price, But anyway, down it was just a 4-story industrial. And we made cleaning chemicals, and they even packaged bright woolite, fall woolite. Packaged that and stuff, and so we had the contract for the state for udder wash, for washing the cows at their farms and all. So part of the contract we had was we had to go and inspect each year, farm. So I remember the first one I went to was the Concord Reformatory in Concord, Mass. And they had a farm attached to it down the street. And so we went to the farm. We were supposed to check for mastitis and sediment and all that stuff. And my older cousin had a degree in sanitation or whatever it was, so hygiene. And so we were out there doing that. But I went out to the car to get something, and I saw one of the inmates coming out, and he's walking towards, and I put myself in the car and locked the doors. He came over, got into a pickup truck, started up and drove off. What it was, the people who were in the farms were trustees, and they could go into town, get coffee, or pick up something, as they just, but I remember seeing that, thinking that, wow.
AZA, welcome to the So Arnie is Girly Flynn's marker on its way to being erected now?
It is in process. There is a bureaucratic process for approval of such things. We're waiting for. Some may have more insight than me into what goes on within the Division of Historical Resources to make the
only part of it. Tell us.
So,
hi Arnie.
Hi Arnie.
So, as people may remember from the Grand Estate Alliance's New Hampshire History Calendar, recently reminded to us by Robin Reed on Facebook.
Right.
Elizabeth Gurley Flynn was born in Concord, New Hampshire in 1890. And it turned out her family was living at 21 Montgomery Street, which is about a block from the State House. And right now it's basically right in back of the Superior Court and around the corner from the VFW. So we are working on getting an official historical marker to be placed near her birthplace. So we've submitted the necessary petitions and all of the historical documentation, birth certificates, and a suggested text for what the plaque would say, with with accompanying articles and background with all the, the suitable historical references, so that to prove that we're not just making it shit.
Her first strike was when she was 16 in Bridgeport, big steel mill there, and the police got so upset about it. They said, "Why can't we kick her out of town or put her in jail? This young woman who's like telling everybody that the rich people should be beaten and killed, and that's just not right."
But I particularly find that European both founding and they're encouraged because of political association.
Very telling. But they have subsequently apologized. They have subsequently apologized. And we can say that
That's called sanitized.
the executive director of the New Hampshire ACLU was very happy to find out about this project and signed the petition immediately and got right back to her when she found out about it. Very nice. So we'll see. So should this get approved, or when this gets approved, I think we'll need to do something else, with suitable celebration and historical discussions.
Do you have to put up? I can't remember who pays for it.
If this gets approved officially, the state pays for it. But it's also possible to, if we want to come up with the money, we could basically probably just do it. But they said that would be like $2,500. And Judy Elliott thought at the time we discussed this that there was probably better uses for $2,500.
I think it's within the Department of Culture and Research, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Is that?
Well, anyway, if the House Minority Leader wanted to send a separate inquiry to Megan Rupnick, just asking, or to the commissioner, just asking about the status, mentioning that he had been one of the signers of the petition.
I'd be glad. I did have that. So I saw Bert Cohen. We're talking about that. We had before about the Abraham Lincoln Brigade plaque.
I believe is
that
in the vault.
Warehouse in the dungeons of the State House?
We think it's in the vault in room 103.
But nobody knows where the key is.
Wait, what is 103?
It's where the Senate Finance Committee meets.
It's an office in the State House that actually has a vault. That was built
not on display.
It was where they kept all the records. It's like you put it in the vault. It's a huge built-in humongous door.
I bet Renny could get a hold of that as easy as he could get a hold of the stock exchange plan.
I think it might be more difficult. I think the Speaker of the House is more of an asshole than the
The Speaker of the House is not on your friends list at the moment, I think. So good job yesterday.
That was wild. A little victory.
State of Cushing. Cushing versus Packard got an advance yesterday.
We sued the governor the speaker wouldn't let people with disabilities participate fully in the legislative process by allowing for remote access or hybrid access. So took them to court and then kind of lost in the first round, federal court, First Circuit. We kind of won, but then they won an appeal, so we're now meeting on buying it. But yesterday, the United States Department of Justice weighed in, and they joined us in saying that the Speaker of the House does not enjoy legislative, is not subject, actually has to obey the Americans with Disabilities Act. And plus we have the whole, the National Disabilities Rights Network has joined in, so organizations from all 50 states, because what's at stake is whether or not, the ADA applies to any legislative, so it's not just the state legislature, it's county legislatures, it's like city councils interact. basically the speaker took the position that he can do whatever he wants and no one can tell him what to do. So in September it's going to be this argument. And the Department of Justice wants to join in, so they'll see the Attorney General of the United States on one side versus the Attorney General of the state of New Hampshire on the other. But it was so weird because I found out about it like late last night because the deadline was yesterday, and at 5 o'clock it was up in the air whether or not the Department of Justice would join or not, or which position. I was pretty sure that they weren't going to support the speaker, but I didn't know whether they would support us. And as it turned out, they get the file until midnight. I mean, it's electronic filing, so like at 8 o'clock at night, kind of found out about it, which was like pretty fun on it. But it's also, I have never been in a situation I could think of where I've done anything to have the Attorney General of the United States on the same side.
Is that a first in the nation?
Well, since
in Renny's many court cases, Cushing versus this and that, and
I had a when we started doing the case. It's a lot to take from the federal court, and I'm sitting like Paul Toomey was. A few volunteer lawyers, but the night before we tried not to sue the speaker. It's such a pain in the ass. I mean, it's absurd that the Senate can meet remotely. The whole world's meeting remotely. The real reason he doesn't want us to meet remotely is because we're not going to vote the way that he wants, and we have more votes. It's basically, this whole thing is a voter suppression stuff. But on the evening of getting to go in, I was talking to, having a correspondence with the legal team to drop it, and I realized that the last time that I had been involved in a civil lawsuit in the federal district court was in the matter of the lawsuit against the state of New Hampshire for the conditions at the Army. Directly involved, because it was another system. We're suing the state of New Hampshire in federal court. Telling Paul, telling like the legal team, we're kind of giggling, or just talking about the politics of that case. And I, at one point said, well, we had, in that instance, on the side of the good folks, on the side of the Clamshell Alliance, we had Nancy Gertner as our attorney. So in vindicating it, it was like, Hugh Bounds was the judge who sat on it, and of course, Bounds had been it's just like we've got to go all the way back to Will Fellowship Center because he was Willard's lawyer when Willard was being put in jail in the 1950s, and then by the 1970s he's a sitting federal district judge ruling on the armory conditions, but also the other people. So it was cool that Nancy Gertner went on to be federal district court judge. And then I said, of course, on the other hand, the lawyers for the state with David Souter, he also went on to. They were it was kind of fun to have this little continuity of playing in that federal court arena to try to secure justice for whatever's so, made my night.
Renny, what are your daughters doing to secure justice?
To secure justice?
And is your middle daughter here?
No.
Renny made a break for it. Independent.
He drove himself here.
He negotiated.
We negotiated. We had like a major, huge bust-out independent move. Bolted. Extended discussions. But we're here. No, she was doing something. She's doing something else. My middle daughter, Elizabeth, works for the New Hampshire Public Defender's Office. She's investigating my oldest daughter, Marie, lives in Memphis, and she's teaching teachers how to teach. And my youngest daughter, Grace, works for a company, 3 Degrees, that's trying to reduce by 3 degrees temperature, which is a Florida. some kind of enviro, clean energy, green stuff that I actually do get. And she's thrilled when she kind of gets it. Much more definitely. It's good.
Is she in New Hampshire?
She's on her way to Portland. She's living in Salt Lake City. And then got this job, so she started remote. The company was opening up a new place in Portland. So she's looking around, actually not trying to find a place in Portland. She's temporarily located to the joy of her parents at 395 New Hampshire. We have like a little in the house. We have like sometimes 4 people working remotely, which is taxes the route or whatever it is. I'm trying to help people. I went up looking at some places. I don't think she'll do it. She's got to find any place she can live. No, seriously, you have a place to live.
Well, I know a number of people that she'd like to meet anyways.
Yeah, but she just knows she's looking for them. Yeah, it's hard to find rooms.
You know the cabin.
Just don't want. She's been going. She tried. Someone's looking for a roommate. It's fine, except the person decided she's not getting back. No, she's like not having back.
East County, Maine is now a place where working class people cannot live.
Nobody can anyway.
So you leaving?
No, I can't afford to leave.
I don't like to see.
You got to afford to stay.
I mean, it's absurd. But it's like that.
Everywhere. Summers, I mean, every place is.
Yeah. Shivani put a bid in on a house in Kittery, $20,000, I think, over the asking price, and it went to $60,000.
When is Tuesday?
Cool.
So did the labor historians among us remember the origin of the armories when the armories were established?
Oh yeah.
This one, thanks to Jeremy Brecker.
Awesome.
Actually, in Connecticut, the reason I read back over the record testimony, and everybody who testified said, "Remember when those machinists went on strike? I wish we had an armory back then." You know, that kind of stuff. And they kept trying to figure out where to place it because Colt wanted it, the Colt people wanted it near them, and the legislature wanted it near us.
Really?
Yeah.
So I heard a lot of them were from the Great Railway Strike.
Well, on the state police. Well, not the. You're talking about the Pullman strike or the uprising of 1877.
That one. Yeah.
I don't know about 1877. I know a lot came out of the Pullman strike. My favorite is to point out to people when they say, well, now think about this. Do they build these armories, which look like forts, which are forts, to protect us from the Russians?
It reminds me of Nicaragua, right under Somoza. All the Guardia were in the middle of the towns, not to defend the town, against the town.
Yeah, but the state police definitely. Actually, the first one was Pennsylvania, and that came out of all the state police basically they wanted mobile forces that they could use to put down strikes. Large as they were. I don't know that in-depth history when I speak of armies and I assume it's the same thing. And it probably goes back to, I'm just guessing, to 1877.
Yeah, I was. The
anniversary of that strike was recent. When I was reading about it, it said that a lot of the armies were built at that time. Because of the speed with which the strike was spreading across the West, it was time to do something.
Basically, the Constitutional Convention was brought together in order to put down uprisings in places like Massachusetts. That's what finally brought them together, because they needed an army to bring from other places to put down real workers' rebellion.
The governor, our big strike some years back, the governor made the armory his headquarters. He used the state police to drive his cab buses. No, he used the state police to count everybody on the line, every one of our 20 or 30 or 40 and Department of Corrections guys to drive the scab buses. And I think at the National Guard facilities, that's where they kept the buses. So he had like every branch that he could of the state government working to try to bring the strike. And before the strike happened, he had his head of office, policy management, his hired thug, to call up nursing home owners and tell them that they were giving them money to buy scabs before the strike began, which is slightly illegal. But he says, if you don't take this money, we'll never give you, we'll never approve any more nursing home money. So he forced them to take money to buy the scabs, even when the bosses were, some of them, ready to settle. He did everything he possibly could. And
which governor was this?
Huh?
Which governor?
John Rowland.
Before he went to jail?
Twice. He's been to jail twice now for a year each.
He was born again once.
That's right. He was born again after the first time. It didn't take.
It didn't take. He didn't try it again.
He just hated us more than anybody did. He'd call us out by name. And he'd say, "Oh, what's your priority this year?" Kill that. I said, "Oh."
Really?
Yeah. He's like, he didn't use the word kill, but he did what he could.
How was he in the beginning, Steve?
Huh?
How was he in the beginning?
He was always, he was always a fiscal. He was
a banker.
Yeah, he was a congressman for a while.
I remember, for 7 days ran a campaign that ran against him, I think.
You campaign?
No, I was hired as a campaign manager for someone who I only worked for 7 days, but he was going to oppose me.
My buddy John Murphy was working a campaign, and the Republican had been in Vietnam, part of the operation, the one where they assassinated individuals, was an assassin plan. And he also was one of those guys who, when they caught somebody, Viet Cong or NLF, he would say, "Oh, you're wounded, and we'd love to fix you up, but first you got to tell us this." And if they didn't tell him, they wouldn't fix him up. So that was Operation Phoenix. And so my buddy John Murphy, and he was directly a part of that. John Murphy mentioned it, or had somebody. No, actually, he had some students mention it, so he could keep his hands off of it. And it still got him sent up to Maine or New Hampshire for a campaign. They just kicked him right out of Maine. There's nothing untrue about what they said. It was just like, how dare you bring this up? It's like it was a slander. He lost. The Republican lost.
Maybe it's progress for that to be considered slander. I don't know.
Oh, my timing is so good. I was thinking that I should go do some honest work. So, speaking of all these working people, maybe I'll go.
See you later.
I'm gonna nap.
Okay. Enjoy your nap.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, so it's nap time. I'll bring out sleeping bags for
And should we, we're over in the parking lot there, out of the way, next to that colored trailer with all the graffiti on it. The building right there.
That's Fiona's college.
Oh, it is, yeah. So should we...
Nice neighborhood.
Should we leave our truck right there, or should we move somewhere else?
I could show you where would be a good place to go.
Sure.
Maybe at lunchtime or something.
Later on, yeah, because it's out of the way now. It's a building.
It might be fine. It depends whether it's 50 feet long or 75 feet long.
It's
You pulled it in so it's as long as yours.
yeah, just about matches right there. Yeah, and only on the other side of the pile is building material, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll have a look and see how obstructed the parking lot is.
Can we use the bathhouse this weekend?
Yeah, the gravel perks very well. Yeah, we're a little behind on the bathhouse.
That's cool. What did she do with that trail?
She rented it from a friend who didn't need it this summer because she and her other friends from Cheese Louise were going to have a band con on the land near Conway Lake of one of the owners of Cheese Louise, but they've been a little slow getting the band coming in together, which has meant that Fiona has been here all summer, which is really nice for us.
And useful to you constructing.
So she's going back to school in the fall, but she makes a point of saying she'd rather be working on the house, but she figures she better finish up. Because she has me as a cautionary tale of what becomes of you when you don't finish your degree.
And she's majoring in early childhood.
Yes,
she's switching to construction engineering now.
Well, I think it will end up having something to do with teaching children meaningful work or something. But yeah, it's child development, so she always tells people, "I'll be developing children." So it makes it sound like she'll be designing children on 3D printers.
We hope that it doesn't come to that.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Pop them right out.
I was going to say Legos, but that's how far behind.
That's right.
Yes.
That's 20th century technology.
Yeah.
Will she put in an appearance this weekend?
Yeah, so she was
here before you got.
She was here before she had to go to work, and we successfully made her late for work. She looked at her watch or whatever you look at these days to tell the time, and realized that it was her phone wasn't magically bouncing on the wrist. She discovered it was 10 o'clock, the time that she's supposed to be using. So she's going to be away hobnobbing with friends tonight, but she'll be with us tomorrow. She'll do the breakfast shift again tonight.
And are you on dish crew now still?
No, I am. We've got enough help that the past couple of days I haven't been doing dishes. I do set up the dining hall in the morning because I seem to be there earlier than anybody else.
Is there a need for guest labor this weekend?
I bet we could put guests to work. Yes.
If they allow you in the building.
Did you have a test?
I'm allowed. Yeah. Octavia trusted us when we told her we were tested. We've got past the COVID directive.
We had the test, but we had the wrong test. We had the quick test.
So we have to stay outdoors. But we have our vaccines.
Did everybody meet Octavia?
Yes.
Did she come up? She didn't come outdoors yet.
She's been out.
Yeah, she was.
Oh, she was? She come here?
She was here.
Yeah.
Here?
I don't think she was right here.
Okay.
Steve, please, please to know that I'm back in the UAW. I'm not so pleased, but I am back.
To the, not to, I was going to say through the National Writers Union, but they're disaffiliated.
Well, we are not affiliated.
Yes.
But the UAW has, you can affiliate with lawyers. For old people who can do this, retirees, and it's very cheap. It's like $50 a month or something.
To join
It's what we can do for them. That's the question, not what they can do for us. Anyway, so I'm back on the CAP Council. I had sent an email to
Bev, I know Bev since she was
saying that I was a little disappointed because I'd been on the on that council for 15 or 20 years, and the writers, I never got anything officially saying we're not in UAW anymore. I just, but for some reason I went on the website because someone had asked me something, and I saw there's no mention of the writers union ever being in the UAW. So I assumed we must have been out. So anyways, I sent an email saying that I was a little disappointed because after being on the council for so many years, nobody even said goodbye. I was actually hurt because I knew these people go through this stuff over the years, and it'd be nice to say goodbye. That's all. I wasn't mad. She said, "Oh, well, you can join." Also, more liberal vote.
It's underneath you. It's sitting on it. It's not in your box.
Anyways, at our first Zoom meeting, she's not usually part of the council deliberations anymore, but she was on this time, and she started talking about these workshops they're doing in the UAW now, regional A&A, diversity, and gender equity, and on. And so I said, I think that's great. I'm fully supportive of that. Just understand what I'm saying now, but I think we also should do some on the labor history. And I got this blank stare. And I said, well, for example, let's take the 1937 Flint strike. Everybody knows about that, right? And I said, yeah. I said, so tell me, what did we actually win in that strike? And of course, nobody knows the answer. So I answered it, and I said, so it seems to me that especially today we could learn a lot, because there's a lot of similarities between 1936 and 2020. Oh, I will say a few things. Just no response. And nobody knew the answer to what was won in the 37 strike. Does anybody know what was won? What they actually...
Not union recognition.
They did. They got union recognition for members only for 6 months. But it was this tremendous turning point. Right after that, there were over 400,000 people participated in sit-down strikes and used Supreme Court reversal self on all the new deal legislation that they had found unconstitutional in Roosevelt's first administration. They were scared to death that the workers were going to take over. They were taking over the property of private companies, and successfully. Thanks in part to Roosevelt, having elected Roosevelt. But it's just like, so was bad. All I got was a blank stare. And it's not the first time I brought this up, but
It's hard to figure out what her stare means.
So they maybe said they couldn't.
Because I've known her for
It's called poker.
No, it's
no tell.
It's I think it's called. It's like frightened. It's like a frightened
deer in the headlights.
Deer in the headlights.
Yeah, deer in the headlights.
So another good question is, what did the 1877 strikes have to do with the end of Reconstruction?
From my book, or you want the answer from my booklet?
Oh, I know the answer. It's a good example of why you need to know labor history.
Tell us the answer.
The senator, the Congress withdrew their troops of occupation
from the Confederacy in order to put down strikes in the North.
Well, also the Sioux.
Or you could,
They sent them against the Native Americans.
yeah, I didn't know that part, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's connected.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah, I mean, it just, you know, it's just every place, and to avoid any of it is what you guys were freaking nuts. I mean, it's just like, let's just open the door a little bit and see what happens.
I think she just couldn't imagine. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, we did the Colt strike anniversary a couple years back. And I thought, you know, this is going to pass right by, and they're not going to talk about it. And we finally got them to do meetings and stuff. And Bev was sort of running them all. And I said, you know, we've really got to try to get involved, get the veterans of the strike involved. And, you know, because I'm sure they have stories to tell. You don't want to talk about retirees.
They
So
might go on and on.
we had 2 or 3 Trinity College students, and they said, we'd love to go to retirees meetings and like that. So that sort of broke the ice. The kids were like, you're our heroes. And when they said that, the retirees were like, okay. And they, it's like, why do I want to remember 4 years on strike? You know, that was horrible time. But when these kids said, listen, we're celebrating your victory, we got a big oil barrel, which is in the state warehouse where they have all kinds of historical stuff packed away. We got an actual oil barrel from the strike, and you know, for fires and stuff. And you had to have a master's degree to pick it up, because now it's a state artifact. So me and my buddy put it. We got somebody to sign off on it. We brought it over, and as the retirees started walking in, 2 guys walked straight to the barrel and started going. Like they had never stopped doing it. And one of them was this Irish guy. He was just like always, you know, he was always right on point there. But when they were asked what they remember fondly, they said the Colt 45, where we did the 45 people. All the mayor and the,
You had clergy involved?
Clergy.
What year was that?
It was a number of 5 years?
It was like 4.5 years long, and it went to, I think, like 80 to 81 to 85, something like that.
Wasn't it going on during the J strike? I remember they
During
came up.
the J strike?
That was 87. I remember they came up and they were, maybe this, I think it was still going.
I think they were done. We saw what we played at the event, which went off really very nicely. We played a videotape of the Phil Donahue show, because there was a strike going on in New York. There was many mine workers, and there was Phil Wheeler, our UAW leader, and Donahue, who's very liberal and very much sympathetic, but he asks the question like he's neutral to hostile, And he says, "Mr. Wheeler, you've been on strike for a year now. You've lost, right? So what are you still doing on strike?" And Phil said, "No, we haven't lost yet. We just haven't won." And it took another 3 years to win, but that community support. Right. We didn't lose. We just put it off for a while.
Dennis Kuchar, after the J strike, was interviewed after the great 16 months of being out in place, and somebody from the news meter asked the question, "Mr. Kuchar, how does it feel to lose the strike?" He said, "We didn't lose the strike. I just lost my job for a while." Because he got more out of it than jobs. But anyways.
You can read about the Colt 45
Good trouble. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
He's got a book.
A little book. It's a little book.
What is that?
I'll give you a copy. I think it's probably some in my
Danny?
my trunk.
Tell me the name again, because I'm taking
Good
some.
Trouble.
Oh, Good Trouble.
By Steve.
Oh, I thought you
T-O-R-N-T-O-N.
It's a series of like 45 little vignettes of how people have used direct action resistance to get where they wanted to go. And it's all, none of it is, it's none of the Doonesbury polite getting arrested. Do you remember that cartoon? Would you like a stretcher, sir?
If you want to learn more about it too, you can go on, I think, the Connecticut Historical Society did a panel with Steve, and he talks about it. I was watching it, that's how I know.
Remember things, right?
Yeah, and some of us are losing a couple steps. Is that on YouTube?
I thought they said they were going to put it on.
There's
It was a panel. I was on a panel.
When it was you. Not that long ago. I called you up right
I
after.
went to one where he was speaking at the West Hartford Library, actually.
This was the Connecticut Historical Society.
That's the one where they forgot to tape it, and then they forgot to pay me. And then I called them up, and they said, "Oh, sorry, you wanted to get paid?" And then I said, "Yeah," and they forgot to pay me again. So I don't think it was a conspiracy. I think it was just like very, very low key competence level.
Well, I don't know if you can
Don't ask me any more questions.
You can see
about
this
stuff
one,
like
but
that,
it was
please.
very good. That's all I can tell you. Steve was very good.
Don't ask me to check it out. I'm surprised you took it.
Well, check it out, the Connecticut Historical Society.
Yeah, just out there. They, with a lot of times they do that to the media to make it work, like they'll embed the link right in the historical site. It'll take you to YouTube.
Yeah, right.
It's technically
That's almost everything. Except the state of Connecticut actually has its own like network like that too. So every single legislative hearing and every lecture at the old State House, which maybe is where it hits them.
So do you remember the one I did that was right after yours?
No, I remember you got rained out once.
Right, this is the one we did.
Yeah, and then you did. Oh yeah, I was.
So yours was just before that, or just after this? I can't.
Same audience, you mean same day?
No.
I'll have to go back to my diary.
And they never did.
Well, that was the library. That was the
library. It was February was John Lewis's birthday, so like I said I gotta start pumping this book again, and so I lined up all these things. Basically, I said the same thing.
And it was good every time.
You didn't see everything.
No, but you told me that you write everything down, so that I would imagine it was all pretty much the same.
Exactly the same.
Same script.
Peter just learned a lesson.
Yeah.
He should do the same.
Yeah, right. You should, but I know.
Peter gave me a big compliment. I was doing a slideshow up at your local, and
the council.
The council, yeah. And he said, what I really liked is you never looked at the screen while you were doing the slideshow. You looked at the people. You didn't keep looking up at the screen when people do that. I said, thank you.
That was a long time ago. Actually, Steve was up there to help promote labor against the war.
Oh, it was a U.S. labor against the war slideshow. Yeah, right.
Which the two things that I still pass around. Well, the one I do now is once in a while I get questions about cops and unions, and so I send them.
Good. Okay. I'm having a harder time defending that position. Is the whole question of after
January 6th?
No, actually, it was before George Floyd, when Black Lives Matter first started. Some locals were. Well, it wasn't. Trayvon. The guy with the cigarettes in New York City.
I can see him. I can't breathe.
Oh yeah.
And they're saying cops should be kicked out of the union. So I thought that through. I kept trying to figure out if that's actually the right tack to take. And I thought, well, maybe military people should be in unions either. But we were starting GI unions back during the Vietnam War, which was not a bad organizing thing, right? To try to get them to be disloyal to the army and loyal to each other. And it was for its time, I think it was pretty darn successful. I said, then of course we can't have any people from electric boat or defense companies in the unions, and then we can't have private security people. We can't have, and then you've got like a third of the workforce somehow involved with, U.S. imperialism and the military-industrial military complex. But every time now, over the last year, that they just acted up, I just keep saying, I hope people forget that. I put it on the Labor and Work Class History Association website after everybody rejected it. Dissent magazine rejected it for some bogus reason. I mean, I was very embarrassed by it. If they said, no, this is bad, this doesn't work, but they just, they lost the manuscript. Then when I reminded them about it, they said, oh yeah, we just need to do some editing on it now, and then nothing.
Well, I know I read it somewhere.
Probably launch or maybe I
shoot under history or something like that.
Yeah, maybe I
Was it in? It wasn't in his time.
No.
Did you publish it someplace?
Did you say Shoe Leather History? Is that a journal?
It's a website. It's run by a guy named Steve Thornton.
Okay, enough about me now.
O-R-N-T-O-N.
Maybe he will tell us the significance of shoe leather.
Were you talking about that before? Because it's just since then I've been making notes and writing more and more so that I can actually come up with a fuller answer of why it's shoe leather.